right, good evening, everyone. Deepak does talk about a lot of scary stuff, but good thing is that we got you covered. We eat, sleep, and dream security. Not all the time, that will be weird, but few of the innovations that we are rolling out now actually map to the same attack sequence. When we build product capabilities on the security side, we've tried to focus on the kill chain and how we map these innovations to the kill chain. So stage one of every kill chain is discovery, right? This is how attackers figure out who you are, what your exposure is. Some of you have used the attack surface management report, a point-in-time report that we generate for you, and have seen your exposures in the product. Now, we are taking it one step further. We are introducing a internet attack surface analysis tool, which will give you full visibility into what is your organization's attack surface. It will give you a visibility of where your applications are distributed. You can click in and see where those applications are running. It is exposure of your namespace, your domain names, your IPs, right? Then you can see a trend of these exposures. First thing that we have done in the past is like we gave you a report. Now we are automating that to run that report all the time, telling you how it is trending over a period of time. It tells you what kind of vulnerabilities we are seeing in your environment, or how many of your namespace exposures are there. Then we basically go and tell you how severe these vulnerabilities are, and then we are also able to bring them together and tell you how do they map to your application assets. We can tell you where your exposed servers are sitting. Do you have servers that have vulnerable TLS? Do you have servers that have vulnerabilities or CVEs? Are you using outdated version of Apache, for example? So you get all those exposures shown to you. Next, we are able to show you your public cloud instances. As we move applications to the cloud, we do lift and shift, right? Sometimes we end up overexposing these services. As we think about the control, knowing where these assets are is very important. And that is exactly what we are focusing on. We tell you exactly what public cloud your exposure is. A lot of customers tell us, I'm just on AWS. They are surprised to see they have like dev environments in Azure or GCP. So knowing where these applications are is very important. Why do you need to know this? Because without knowing where these assets are, you cannot remediate it. And remediation of this is very easy through our ZPA service. ZPA gives you a segmentation framework, user-to-app segmentation, as Deepan talked about. But we have extended that concept, and in tomorrow's keynote, we're going to talk more about it, how we extend that for workload-to-workload, branch workload-to-workload segmentation as well. Now, all of us use various kind of applications for day-to-day like being productive. Like we use Office 365. Instead of using like thick clients like Word or SharePoint or Acrobat readers, we have a lot of productivity documents that we are opening directly inside browsers. A lot of threats are embedded inside that. So second area where we continue to innovate is around finding these early indicators of compromise. One such capability that we are introducing is bringing our isolation service, which is pixel streaming from the cloud, a lot of you use it, and our cloud sandbox service together. So in this case, I'm going to walk you through an example. What we are doing is you are picking specific file types, like Office 365 files. I'm also picking a PDF file example here. And what I'm doing simply here is setting up this new policy criteria, which is isolation and quarantine. What it is doing is when we see a new file that we haven't seen before, right, or new Word document which is embedded inside a browser or a PDF, it will basically give you an option to view that file while that is being sandboxed. So make your employees more productive while the file is being scanned for any new zero-day attack, right? You activate these policies. So user who's looking at this file, we are clearly communicating to them that your file is being sandboxed. So you have access to this file, but this file might not be clean. Then we are also have the header at the top, which tells you that this is coming through browser isolation service. What happens is we find a vulnerability or a exposure on this file due to which we block this file. At that point, we basically blocked this user from downloading this file because it was in a containerized browser session from where user cannot download it. Now, sandbox analysis found it malicious. What we are able to do now is we basically are able to disarm the harmful content, and we flatten that file. If it's a Word file, we'll flatten it to a PDF file, and you can download a clean version of that file on your desktop. So a malicious file you can access while it is being analyzed, so you are productive. It could be a code coming from a vendor that you need to look at last of the quarter, but you are also able to then download a clean version of file. So we are doing the first level of content disarm for you. Pretty cool. Now, second area where we are extending the machine learning capability in our sandbox. We already have a instant verdict capability when files are clean, right? When they're benign files. So we give you an early indicator, these are benign files, you're able to download it. Now, with the new innovation that we are introducing, we are introducing AI-based instant verdict for borderline malicious and actual malicious files. So using our ML algorithms and static analysis of the content, what we are able to do is when the file is seen, while file is with sandbox, we are able to pick that signal, and within few seconds, we are able to tell you that file is bad, and in your transaction logs, you will be able to go and see that this was a machine learning block that triggered at that time. We use a scoring framework between 0 to 100. So typically, files which are outright bad should be blocked, scored between 90 to 100. Files that are borderline, which needs full analysis, are in the score region of 70 to 90. We also have a quarantine capability, which means we keep refreshing your browser until the verdict comes back. So if this file was deemed as a file which was borderline, the verdict will immediately tell you that this file was quarantined as a result. So a lot less configuration, and the policy action will say that this was a machine learning-driven quarantine. So with combination of the content disarm we talked about, machine learning to do instant verdict, it makes the efficacy of sandbox much more effective. Now let's move on to the next area. A lot of attacks that we see in the ransomware kill chain are triggered on your Active Directory. This is one of the reasons we are introducing an integrated identity threat detection response capability on Zscaler platform, which is continuously looking at attack surface of your identity inside your Active Directory, hygiene of your Active Directory, like how frequently changes are happening, do you have misconfigurations, and then finding threats that are tied to your directory. I'm going to walk you through an example, right? Let's say your domain is example.com, right? And many of you are using our client connector, so you don't need to install a new agent. Your client connector might be connected to the domain controller. So I'm able to pick a client on which our client connector is running, which is domain joined. Then I basically allow you to pick that client and basically connect to domain controller and Active Directory to start scanning your Active Directory. I'll go for a coffee break. I go for extending lunch breaks, actually, so let's stick to the lunch break. I come back from the lunch break, my report will be ready. This is point-in-time analysis right at that point, but we also do continuous scan. You can pick your frequency every few minutes or hours. You can keep scanning your Active Directory. We'll tell you what is your overall domain risk. What are the focus areas where we found misconfigurations, and how you can remediate them. Is remediation easy or complicated? Then we'll tell you your top 10 risky users. Many of our security practitioners follow MITRE attack framework. So we map these vulnerabilities that we find, that misconfigurations we find, to the MITRE attack framework as well. To go a step further, we give you a list of all your misconfigurations we found. I'm picking an example of combustible accounts that we found in your misconfiguration. Then I can tell you there are 4 accounts that were seen that have been exposed to this. We tell you what is the issue. If you don't fix it, what will happen? There are videos, sequences of all of them that tell you step by step what is going on. Then we tell you, how do you fix this? We are able to give you specific commands, those commands that you can run on your Active Directory to fix those misconfigurations. So a wide variety of these issues could be done. Now, many a times, Directory teams are different in organizations, security teams are different, right? We are always looking at changes that are happening in your environment, also and showing you a list of those changes. In this example, I'm picking a change that might be linked to DC sync attack. What will happen is a security practitioner will say, this looks suspicious, I cannot revoke this change. I'm going to add it to safe list to accept that risk, but I'm going to keep looking for this change. Does it lead to any form of attack or compromise? So you can set a bunch of these permissions to then start looking for detection of these attacks in your environment. So DC sync, DC shadow, bunch of those are added here. Then, as you know, we know the clients, we know the users, our client is running on them. We are able to determine when these attacks actually happen. And we can then set up or orchestrate a rule that can prevent that attack as well. So it's identity threat detection response. I talked about detection. We have response playbooks as well. Response could be coming through detection, through our deception product where we have decoys. We have endpoint decoys as well. We also have ZPA. In this case, I'm basically revoking that access or reducing the blast radius for that user who is seen to be compromised and removing their access to certain applications. So basically, when they try to connect to an application, we are able to revoke their access. So tying this into broader platform instead of creating another point product makes it much more powerful and functional. Now, let's talk about how we prevent lateral movement, right? All the attacks that we talked about, Deepan gave you examples, how quickly these attacks propagate laterally. Let's talk a little bit about innovations that we are rolling out in stopping lateral propagation. And in this area, in ZPA, we have focused quite a bit on to simplify user-to-app segmentation. A lot of our customers adopt ZPA, and they take their attack surface and put it behind ZPA, so they do not have any exposure of their namespace on the internet for private applications. Now, to take it one step further, we introduced ML-based segmentation last year, where after analyzing traffic patterns, we started telling you that these departments go to these applications, you can set up policies, so you can create more effective policies. One of the capabilities that our customers have been asking us to add to make segmentation more easy to set up, especially when you are starting on that journey, is to connect to systems like CMDB. Many of our customers have used CMDBs extensively, and what they are doing here is they are bringing a list of their applications from CMDB with additional context like who's the owner of the application, where the application is hosted, et cetera, in a CMDB exportable file. When you import that file into ZPA, what will happen at that point is, in this example, I'm picking 3 applications like Jira, Boomi, vSphere. What we are doing at that point is we are analyzing, do we see traffic for these applications in ZPA, or any app segmentation is configured on this or not? If it is not configured, what ZPA is going to do is it's going to start recommending you app clustering. It will tell you these set of applications are things that belong together. And with a click of a button, you can start a segmentation workflow on these applications. We take it a step further, right? You can say, this is my namespace, IP space on which this application is running. But instead of just creating app segment based on the namespace, I'm also aware of where these applications typically communicate, what ports it is communicating on. So we bring those observed ports together, and we stitch it with these applications and can restrict the app segments that we create only for those specific ports. So it makes segmentation very, very effective in this world. I talked about ML-based segmentation. We are taking this recommendation engine one step further. So one of the core innovation that we are rolling out in this area is understanding the application behavior and understanding which users are accessing certain applications. Now, if we pick an example of this application here that we have seen cluster, which has similarity in terms of the ports that being used and the application pattern, or same homogeneous set of users who are accessing it, we can give you a recommendation where we can say, here is a set of applications that are exhibiting common set of traits. One of them is the corporate IT users who are accessing that application, and what ports this application is being accessed over. A lot of time, within a large department like corporate IT, there would be specific set of users only who would access those applications, right? So we can then recommend you the group of users who are accessing that application. You can download that list, and you can then create a dynamic group so the access of those applications is reduced significantly. Now, think of the attack surface reduction. Literally from thousands of employees, it comes down to tens of employees, so massive attack surface reduction. To make your segmentation journey even easier, we are introducing pattern-based application segmentation. Beyond the broader segmentation framework, where a lot of customers start with a star.star policy, they have to define segmentation policies one by application name. You might have 7 Active Directory servers. You might be adding 7 more in the future. So instead of making you go through this manual process, we are introducing this pattern matching concept where you can define a pattern, and no matter what applications you will add in that namespace will automatically be segmented. So this brings the discipline in your application teams, IT teams, so they can start following this name pattern, and then your application namespace gets automatically segmented as well. Second area is on adaptive risks. Right? So this is a big focus area. We'll talk more about it. But for private applications, we are able to take specific actions where, when someone is coming after your crown jewel applications, they are typically not going to come from where your typical employees come from. So in this world, what I'm telling you about is we are building this adaptive access control. I'm giving you 3 examples here. One is you can put policies based on where the incoming traffic from a user is coming from. You can put specific restrictions on it. Or you can pick the client device posture. Posture could be Zscaler posture, like if it is a corporate device or not. Does my device have a EDR agent like CrowdStrike running on it, for example? And third example in this, oops, I went ahead. So third example is this in the user risk score. So risk scores are computed dynamically in Zscaler World for every single user based on their app traffic that is going through us. So the best thing about this is not just used when user is connecting to the application, but we can also use this to revoke the access if user is already access is already established to your application as well. So this brings the contextual access of a user to the application that they're accessing as well. And lastly, a lot of our customers care for cybersecurity. When you have private applications that are being accessed through ZPA, we have world-class security controls that we have built in our core ZIA security engine. We are bringing that traffic inspection with a click of a policy where you can pick an app segment, your crown jewel applications in this case, and subject it to the same inspection policies that you have built for internet-bound traffic. Now, one capability on the lateral propagation, and again, if you think about how third parties or remote users who are not part of your organization, when they access your private applications, right? You want to know what changes they are making inside your organization. You think about these 3 stages of attack: data exfiltration. We'll talk tomorrow when we have data protection session. But you also want to know what is happening when users get access. So insights and analytics are really important. So one capability that we are introducing is called session recording for privileged remote access. This could be done for all kind of remote access. I'm taking an example of privileged remote access. So when you set up a privilege policy, a privilege portal, now you can set up a session recording on that, which essentially means when in the policy is simple checkbox that you can enable in segmentation policy. Now, what will happen is when the transaction happens, we will have a link to the recorded session in the transaction log. What that really does is once you can go there, download this file, and see what changes a user or a remote user actually made inside that session, and we record that session and give a full playback for you. So very important from forensics and investigation purpose. A lot of you are using our ZIA product to understand the threat patterns, et cetera. So another very key innovation that we're introducing is a new cybersecurity dashboard inside the product. So a single pane of glass to tell you all your security exposures by various types of threats that we are blocking, telling you number of incidents that we have blocked, and then telling you basically different kind of exploits and the recent protection that threat labs that Deepan was talking about has been rolling out. In this world, And I'll give you one specific example where we have browser exploits, right? Common use case, a common threat that we see in our world. I can see different kinds of browser exploits in this example, like a JavaScript exploit. I can click here, and I can immediately see what are the details, and then I can click and see who are the impacted system as a result of it, right? So you can have your SOC playbooks, your remediation kick in immediately. So very quick click down from a top level to a user's device level with few clicks, and you get full visibility into it. I have one more very interesting innovation to share with you. And OK, this was not the innovation, but this is someone who might be very excited with this innovation. And that is having a packet capture that is triggered in the cloud, which SOC operators really care for. And this could really up-level your security in terms of forensics that you want to do on top of all the metadata, all the logging that Zscaler provides to you. So it's pretty simple. You will be able to create a packet capture rule, either in URL filtering rule set or in our firewall IPS rule set. And the way this works is I'm giving an example of a block policy here, where if you set up a block policy, you will be able to create a packet capture rule along with it. We will also trigger this packet capture on certain risky behaviors, like transaction might not be blocked, but user's risk score is actually increasing. So it might be a good time to have that packet capture initiated. The moment you have initiated that packet capture, now some of you will say, I want this packet to be sent somewhere that I care for, or Zscaler, you keep this packet capture and show it to me. At this point, we'll give you both the options. And when packet capture is initiated for a given log, you'll be able to filter those logs, and you'll be able to download those packet captures from Zscaler log or export to your SIEM. All those capabilities will be supported.